Bruce Lee was more than just a martial arts icon. He was a philosopher, a thinker, a bridge between East and West, and a man whose energy and ideas seemed too large for the world to contain. In his short life, Bruce left a deep mark on both martial arts and cinema, but it wasn't just his fists or kicks that amazed people. It was his mind. And what makes his story even more mysterious is that, in his final interviews, he said things that many now believe predicted his own death. Was Bruce Lee aware that his time was running out? Or did he just understand life and death so well that his words seemed prophetic in hindsight? That's what we'll explore today. Because when you listen to his last interviews, especially the one with Pierre Berton in 1971, you'll notice something deeper than just a conversation about fighting. You'll hear a man who seemed to be speaking from a place of finality. Calm, composed, philosophical, but also strangely reflective for someone in his early 30s. It's chilling when you hear Bruce say, "To live is to express." He wasn't just talking about martial arts. He was talking about being alive with intensity. He believed in burning bright. And he did. So bright that even 50 years later, we're still talking about him. But with brilliance often comes a kind of fragility. People who live on that edge don't always stay long. That's what makes Bruce Lee's story both inspirational and heartbreaking. One of the most quoted lines from Bruce is, "Be water, my friend." People love this phrase, and for good reason. On the surface, it's about adaptability. But if you listen closely, it's also about acceptance. Water flows, it crashes, it becomes. Bruce understood impermanence. He knew that nothing lasts forever, not even himself. And that awareness seeped into many of his later conversations. In his 1971 interview with Pierre Berton, Bruce sat on a plane set, dressed in a Mandarin-style shirt, and spoke with clarity and poise. There was no ego, no performance, just a man explaining how he sees the world. He said, "Empty your mind. Be formless, shapeless like water." But what followed was even more telling. He said, "Now water can flow or it can crash. Be water, my friend." Those words weren't just martial advice. They were existential. There was something about Bruce's calm that didn't feel like confidence. It felt like closure. He wasn't a man planning a long life of films and fame. He was a man trying to express something important before time ran out. Even the way he described his art, Jeet Kune, as the art of expressing the human body honestly, tells you he wasn't about building an empire. He was about truth, about stripping away the unnecessary. That's the mindset of someone who knows the clock is ticking. In another interview from that same period, Bruce said, "The key to immortality is first living a life worth remembering." Think about that for a moment. He wasn't talking about living forever. He was talking about making each day matter. And isn't that what he did? His life was short, yes, but unforgettable. And it's that awareness that makes people wonder, did Bruce Lee somehow know? Just days before his death in July 1973, Bruce reportedly told friends that he was feeling off. He was losing weight, suffering headaches, and had a strange feeling of detachment. On May 10th, he collapsed while working on the movie Enter the Dragon and was rushed to the hospital. The cause was cerebral edema, swelling of the brain. He recovered briefly, but the incident was a warning. 2 months later, he would be dead. Now let's return to those interviews. Bruce once said, "All types of knowledge ultimately mean self-knowledge." That's deep. He wasn't interested in techniques or flashy moves. He was interested in knowing himself. And maybe, just maybe, he started to see something in himself, a sense that he was nearing the end. He talked about death like someone who wasn't afraid of it, like someone who had already accepted it. In fact, in a rare moment during one interview, Bruce was asked what he would like to be remembered for. He replied, "As someone who honestly expressed himself. That's all. Not as a superstar. not as a fighter, just someone who was honest. The honesty in those final interviews is striking. There's no pretending. Bruce is soft-spoken, almost gentle. He's not trying to impress. He's just trying to explain what he believes. He says things like, I don't believe in systems. I believe in the individual. It's raw. It's human. And it feels like the words of someone who knows his time is limited. Some people believe Bruce Lee was spiritually sensitive, that he had a kind of sixth sense, and maybe he did. He was fascinated by Taoism, Zen, and the nature of reality. He meditated. He read philosophy. He questioned everything. And maybe those questions led him to a truth that the rest of us only understand too late. One of his closest friends, Dan Inosanto, once said that Bruce had started speaking differently toward the end. Less about the future, more about what really matters. Less ambition, more reflection. And Bruce himself once wrote, I'm not afraid of death. I'm afraid of not trying. That's the mindset of someone who is walking a narrow path, someone who's aware of how thin the line between life and death really is. There's also the mystery of his unfinished writings. In his notes, Bruce had been working on a book. It was never completed, but what exists shows a man who was deeply engaged with spiritual questions about life, energy, purpose, and the soul. In one passage, he wrote, Life is wide, limitless. There is no border, no frontier. Again, this isn't just martial arts talk. It's the thinking of someone who sees beyond the physical. Even more haunting is something he said shortly before his death. If I should die tomorrow, I will have no regrets. I did what I came here to do. That's not normal. Most people don't talk like that, unless they feel something. Bruce wasn't afraid. He was ready. When he passed away on July 20th, 1973, the world was shocked. He was young, healthy, and in the prime of his life. But for those who had listened closely to his final words, the shock was mixed with a strange sense of recognition. Like, somehow, Bruce had been preparing us. Like he knew. And that's why his final interviews matter so much. They're not just footnotes in his career. They're a window into his soul. They reveal a man who wasn't just chasing fame. He was searching for meaning. And maybe, just maybe, he found it right before the end. Bruce Lee once said, what we are not changes what we are. It's a cryptic line, but maybe he was trying to say that by facing our limits, our mortality, we can truly understand ourselves. Bruce lived fast, burned bright, and left behind a body of work that continues to inspire. But beyond the movies and the punches, it's his words that linger. Words that, decades later, still make us wonder. Did Bruce Lee know he was going to die? Maybe he didn't know the exact moment. But he understood the nature of life, and that's even more powerful. He understood that every breath counts, that every moment matters. And that's the lesson he left us, one we're still learning today.